So thank you, Steve. Welcome everyone. What an amazing turnout we have here today. We're really pleased that you've all taken the time to join us. First off, we'd like to give a big thanks to KPMG for this great spread, and also for Amanda and Aurora for their help from the High Growth Ventures team. Putting this together obviously takes a lot of effort. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the real impact of technology on real estate. I spent the last 20 years working in real estate in Asia, with Savills initially in China, managing Pan-Asian funds for ING Real Estate in Singapore, the roles in Abu Dhabi, and head of capital at Mirvac. As I've moved around the globe and back to Australia, I've always followed broad themes and tried to take a longer-term view. So for me, theme one was China. At 22, I bought a one-way ticket to Beijing and was accepted into a postgraduate program with the School of Architecture at Tsinghua University. I wanted to be a part of the China growth story. In '94, when we started Savills, we had only 3 people. After 5 years, we had the largest consultancy in China. And to some extent, China fast-tracked my career, developing an understanding of the culture, how to do business in China, and also the language. It was probably the best move that I could have made. A second major theme for me was the Middle East, the rise of the Middle East. The oil economy of Abu Dhabi began a rapid investment program to diversify the nation's income. And in 2005, I moved to Abu Dhabi and was charged with investing billions of dollars for ARIA into Asia, with some of the best developers in the region into some of the most sustainable projects that you could imagine, and with many of you in this room. To live and learn about such a unique and different culture and be a part of the maturing Abu Dhabi was a fascinating journey. So this brings us to my most recent theme, the theme of innovation into real estate. So over the past 12 months, I've been attending a lot of conferences around the globe, and we've been told we've got to adapt or die. The artificial intelligence that's coming is going to destroy 40% of the jobs. Also 40% of the office space is going to be gone. We hear that the agency model is probably the first to go. We also hear that the insurance sector will be decimated once cars stop crashing into each other. So there's a lot of fear and a lot of noise surrounding our sector. Today, I want to cut through some of that noise and focus on 3 key points. Tech investment into property, how corporates are struggling with innovation, and whether we, as owners and investors in real estate, should take action now or whether we should wait. So we define real estate as technologies that impact the built environment and the real estate sector, either through business model innovation or product innovation. It impacts the way that we live, work, and play. Our goal today is that you walk away from this breakfast as excited about the opportunity of real tech as we are, but more of that later. So to set the scene, when I say the word disruption, what's the image that you start to have in your mind? If we look back at 2 of the most recent disruptors, we have some fascinating case studies. We recently had Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix in Sydney. He told us the story of the day that Netflix secured a meeting with Blockbuster in Dallas, Texas in 2005. Some of you may recall Blockbuster was the market leader. They had something like 9,000 retail outlets and about 60,000 employees. And this little startup, Netflix, had $50 million of losses. It had made the transition from delivering DVDs. You remember that first, you actually ordered DVDs online and they delivered. They'd gone into the online streaming service. But revenues were very low, they were growing. And the Netflix team had proposed a merger to be the online portal of Blockbuster. The Netflix guys turned up in their Hawaiian shirts, which probably didn't help. And the Blockbuster executives asked, so, how much for your company? When they were told $50 million, the meeting quickly ended. Now we all know, within 5 years, Blockbuster had declared bankruptcy, massive debts, large job losses, and Netflix has gone from strength to strength. Its current value is around $66 billion. The startup had disrupted the incumbent. Now, if we look at Australia now, Amazon has announced it's coming into our market, about to enter our shores later this year. If we look at the example of Germany, it's clear that a number of our mini majors will disappear. In less than 10 years, in Germany, Amazon secured around 6 billion euros of annual retail sales in a market that was stagnant at 20 billion. So with more than 25% of the retail rents gone, many small retailers have disappeared. The same happened in Spain. UBS estimates that for Australia, the impact is going to be about 16%. So it's going to be slightly lower. But 16% will have a major impact on a group like JB Hi-Fi and Myer. So we've already seen the demise of Dick Smith. What's going to happen to retail portfolios when 16% of your retail rentals disappear? In both of these cases, is that disruption led to a destruction of value for the incumbent. Now, over the past 18 months, we've been out visiting lots of companies that are investing into the real tech space. We've been in markets as diverse as Stockholm and Tel Aviv, New York, San Fran, Singapore, Shenzhen. Many of the companies that are in the real tech space are actually not about disruption at all. Their focus is on technology that will enhance the value of real estate, lowering costs of portfolios, or delighting your customers. So this can create long-term value that can differentiate your projects. Thus, real tech is actually about creating value. This is actually not something that should be feared. So let me leave that thought as we move to look at the value of tech investment into property. The good news is that this market is now changing, it's accelerating, and the broad numbers speak for themselves. Real estate has a global value of about $217 trillion, so it's a huge, huge industry. Data from CB Insights, the market leader in this space, shows that there was only $2.6 billion invested globally in real estate-related tech in 2016. That's about a tenth of the amount that was invested into fintech, even though our sector is far, far bigger. What stands out is that over the past 2 years, something has started to change, with a year-on-year growth of 50% increase in the amount of capital that's going into real estate tech. So I think our timing for real tech ventures was pretty good. In the Australian Institute of Company Directors annual report for 2016, Christine McLaughlin, who's the non-executive director for Suncorp, Whitehaven Coal, ANZ Stadium, stated, "Technology is changing exponentially and in an interconnected, complex way. It impacts the customer experience, supply chain, business model, and competitive landscape. And so directors need to be across these interactions." Graham Bradley, who was at that time the chair of Stockland, presented the 2016 annual report. And he declared every board needs to set aside funds to invest into companies that are looking to disrupt their sector. So not just real estate, every board should be setting aside funds. His recommendation was that all boards need to start putting this money aside. So boards are clearly making the move. They want to change, but actually the management teams have found it quite difficult. Most corporates have actually struggled with innovation. When we posed the question, why has real estate been so slow to innovate, the answers were fascinating. Some groups talked about the static nature of bricks and mortar, not requiring innovation. Others referenced the pressures on the development manager, who's dealing with everything from unions and councils, tight timeframes, weather, and has his own preferred suppliers that he wants to continue using. We also explored the difficulty of developing assets when there is long-term approval processes and long-term development processes. That means a project, when it's complete, is technically out of date. And it's pretty clear that innovation is tough. There's a growing awareness that investing into VC requires experience, dedication, and time, as these companies are actually pretty difficult to manage. They need a lot of nurturing. So we often see these early stage companies that have a great idea, but they've got the wrong funding model, or they don't have enough customers, or they didn't register their IP. So one of the most interesting comments was the challenge that boards and management teams face in approving technology investments. No one wants to make a mistake. So better to wait until the company has some track record. And this leads us to the third point, acting now or later. We've been discussing innovation with some of the leading global owners of real estate. It's actually very easy to get a meeting with a CEO to talk about innovation. Seeing where innovation fits into an organisation reveals a lot about how the corporate will act. For some groups, like Westfield, innovation is a direct report to the CFO. It's a financial decision. For others, like Dexus and Vicinity, the head of innovation is also the head of HR, meaning that innovation is being used to change the culture. For others again, such as Investor, ISPT, it's all about the business, and innovation is directly under the CEO or the CIO. So clearly, there are many ways to proceed in this space, and many of our major developers and investors are progressing with innovation strategies. Globally, we can look at some of the groups out of Asia to see some examples of success. Groups like Swire in Hong Kong, who've created their own incubator space to ensure that they're at the forefront of innovation. So Swire had an entire vacant floor in one of their buildings that was to be redeveloped. They'd hoped that startups would grow to become future tenants, so they renovated this space into some pretty funky office premises. What they found was that there's a whole world of startups that could actually impact their portfolios, and a company called Blueprint was born. Blueprint's an incubation accelerator space. It was created using materials from their corporate entity. So Swire also owns Cathay Pacific, Coca-Cola bottling. So they've got a fantastic tail fin as their boardroom table. First class chairs from the 70s is the breakout room. It's a modern, open plan facility that offers free space and membership to 10 to 12 startups every 6 months. And it's been a tremendous success. Another example from the region is CapitaLand, Singapore. They've allocated 100 million Sing dollars to a fund to invest into direct and indirect investments that will be of benefit to their vast portfolio across Asia. They've created an internal VC team and partnered with a major university in Singapore. It's called C31 Ventures, and the fund has now started to invest. But it's a major investment. Yesterday I returned from 2 amazing weeks in Germany and Switzerland and Israel with some of the Siemens team that's here. I was part of a Siemens digitalization tour. Now, many of you might know that Siemens is a pretty old company, but it was actually founded in 1847. They've dedicated €1 billion to invest into early stage ventures that may disrupt its portfolio. Called Next 47, the vehicle is designed to ensure that Siemens, a €90 billion company, survives the next 47 years. In just 6 months, they've also made about 30 investments. So the way I see it, real estate tech today has become a hygiene factor, a bit like sustainability was 5 years ago. Waiting to see what's out there and then simply becoming a customer in the future is risky because it takes time to implement these changes. Customers want innovation, and they'll make purchase decisions based on technology. It would lead tenants to choose other buildings, or customers trying another mall, or apartment purchasers choosing another development. It's that simple. And that's why we actually launched the fund. The whole idea with the Realtech Ventures is to create an Australian-based, Asian-focused ecosystem of non-competing investors who will get to test and trial opportunities prior to their competitors. Since launching the fund, we've had many hundreds of groups approach us for funding, and around 70 have been taken through to the next phase of due diligence. I'm going to talk about some of the deals because I know that that's what some of you would like to see. But what I really want you to have is an understanding of what Realtech is. So first we'll start with a couple of Australian ones. Habitat uses a cloud-based software program to deliver energy services to complex portfolios. Now we've asked each of the companies that we look to invest into to tell us, what will this do to a portfolio? Their estimate is that they'll generate energy savings of 4.1 million per annum per 100,000 square metres of space. That's a huge number. So this one came out of the CSIRO as well as Levo. It's a smart building IoT firm providing sensor-based solutions developed in conjunction with the Australian military as well. So unlike most siloed solutions, Levo delivers 5 core smart capabilities within a single sensor. This includes lighting control, climate control, emergency products, security, people and asset tracking, and also space utilization in one little light. Now this one is my favorite. Some of you have heard me talk about this one a little bit in the past. At YISM, at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, there is a number of teams that are investigating building technologies. They're looking at ways that they can have a dramatic impact on reducing building management and cleaning costs. And this one is pre-commercial, but it's basically a facade paint that is reacting with oxygen to clean the surface. So in just that 10 seconds, you start to think about what that could do. So no more building gondolas, no more ropes on the side of buildings. It works on glass, so it can actually be a self-cleaning glass. No more cleaning your car. What they found is that this is taking nitrous dioxide and sulfur dioxide out of the air. So for polluted cities, it's a fantastic addition. Internally, in planes, in cars, you can have clean environments just by putting a different adhesive on. So we love this one, but this is pre-commercial. It doesn't even have a name. We also spent time at the University of Tel Aviv, and we've seen a company that will make your lift the safe escape route, so that in the event of fire, you take the lift. We like this way of thinking. So they take the rule and they break it. Tel Aviv Ventures is a fund that's coming out of the university, and we've seen 6 or 7 opportunities to invest into with this group. With Siemens, we're also looking at business model innovation. At Zug in Switzerland, Siemens has been working on an extensive building information modelling system that combines large numbers of sensors and beacons across all service providers within a development. So in their modelling, only 20% of the costs of a building are in development. 80% is in operational, because they take the true life of the building cycle into play. But how many of our decisions are based on much shorter terms? When you say a 2 to 3 or 5 year payback, we're actually using the wrong metrics. Our buildings last a lot longer. Their modelling system also leads to projects being delivered closer to budget, having fewer job site accidents. So job site accidents happen quite a lot because you've got an electrician that's under pressure and the HVAC guy's coming in and they work on the same thing together. Each one is an expert in their own space, but the electrician is halfway through his work. Things happen on sites. Their system actually allows for fewer job site accidents, faster project delivery, and up to 9% lower development costs. Again, a huge amount of money. Another short one that Siemens demonstrated was a dynamic fire warning system that uses sensors to work out where a fire is in the building and then suggests an escape route that directs people to avoid the area where the fire is, using a simple LED lighting system. It's so simple. Imagine if there's a fire in this building. Half of you go that way, half of you go that way, but the fire's in that corridor. It's issues like these that we want to address using smarter technology. And I could go on and on and on with deals. I'm not going to go through every one of these. But this is from CV Insights. We've actually mapped the retail real tech map. We've also got commercial deals, residential deals, hotel deals. There are so many opportunities out there in this space. So I'm going to actually start the wrap up so that we get to the panel discussion. I think the Q&A should be pretty informative today. But let me just restate the key points that I want to leave you with. So globally, real tech investment is now growing at 50% per annum. Corporates are putting in place innovation strategies. We don't think waiting is an option. Playing catch up in the technology space is not easy. And lastly, the key point of all. Real tech can enhance yields. It can reduce costs and it can delight your customers. Due to the scale of our industry, the opportunity that this creates is massive. But one thing is clear, the disruption of real estate is inevitable. And the decisions that you make today will determine whether your company will be ahead of the trend or disrupted by it. So we'll now move to the panel discussion. I'll be joining the panel a little bit later, so we might hold any questions for that time. But hand over to you, Steve.